We'll start the meeting. Where's my answer?
Here, it's me. I'm Rayanne today.
Okay.
Yeah, no clerk.
All right, we have the agenda February 12th. It is 6:03 p.m. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll
Roll call.
Montoya. Alderman Rutherford.
Here.
Alderman Fairwell.
Here.
Alderman McGee. Alderman Carr. Here. Alderman Roll.
All right, is there any public comment? Any public comment? Okay. Appropriations, so, I know all the department heads meant to go through the appropriations, with the city treasurer. This is just a draft. I'd like to go department by department, and if there's any questions they can't answer, we have plenty of time between, I'd like to pass this in March, so we have another month, to get started on this early, so I'm gonna turn it over to the administration. We can start going through each department, however you see fit, and if there's any questions. Huh?
They're going to make a few copies.
Okay, I could start in a second, just I'll just give them a second.
Okay. Whenever you guys want to start, that's what I figured we'll do. If we can answer the questions right away, Lauren's here, then we can get the questions answered over the next few weeks.
If I have this up. Do any aldermen have any overarching questions before we generally look into this? I gotta think crowd tonight.
You want, you do the easy ones first, like the mayor's department, since I'm the only one in.
Yeah, if you wanna go ahead, I said, I'm just kind of waiting to download here.
Where's that? Okay.
Unless I get a pic-
Mayor's office, actually the first page. So we always appropriate for the assistant. It's posted. I've started going through applications, but we haven't filled it. So that's why the actual spent is 0, because I've gone 4 or 5 years now without an assistant to, my wife's chagrin, because my phone goes off constantly. But we still kept the same dollar amount that's in there appropriated just in case I do hire somebody. My salary is under the part-time mayor, part-time liquor commissioner. Then everything else is the FICA, Medicare, IMRF. The dues and memberships are the South Suburban Mayors and Managers and the Southwest Suburban Mayors and Managers. Those two organizations base their dues on population. So that's the exact amount that was spent last year. So we budgeted the same amount from the previous year. So pretty much no change, and that's the mayor's one. Let me know when you're ready. Finance is next. Here you go.
Okay, so council, you have in front of you the first draft of the 2026 appropriation. I did include a memo in the initial vote that sent this to you yesterday, which just gives some overall highlights. I don't have it in front of me, but I remember it enough. So all right, so the first section of the memo that I featured actually is on page 3, which is the second to last cabinet funds is total of all city funds. The reason I tend to focus on this number is everything that we do through all the departments, the general fund being kind of the most important in what we balance, and then the various dedicated funds, all boils down to the total of all city funds. So last year we had appropriated it was 60 appropriation actually. We appropriated $66 million. We spent $43.5 million last year. So I always like to highlight that number because it is important to remember this is an appropriation and not a budget document. What we're doing is looking for the spending limits of what we're willing to do this year. So probably the largest difference between last year's appropriation and this year's appropriation is the water bonding that we did last year and again earlier this year. The reason I want to point that out is because the previous 4 years that we presented this document, what we seek to do is to get to a balanced point in that bottom right corner, right? Revenues over expense, right? Which is to say, the appropriation that we're doing is gonna match even to the revenues as we begin to plan for the fiscal year. This year, we have a unique situation because the water bonding that we did, which equates to roughly $10 million, is not accounted for as general revenue. All right, so when we take in money from, say, property taxes, when we sell a piece of property, when we do things that is money that is new money in, new income, right? A bond obviously isn't that, okay? That's a considered a legal liability. We're going to have to pay that back over the schedule in which we paid it back. So what you see here in that bottom right number is a revenue over expense in the negative of $10.3 million. Okay, what we have to factor in is that, and Lauren from Casper is going to be able to explain this better than I will. What we have to factor in is that we have 10 million in spending from the bonding, but that is not going to be accounted for in the normal revenue processes as we're used to seeing. So what we're really seeing here is a $308,000 deficit in the revenue over expense, which we seek to close between now and March 10th when we pass this. Okay, we seek your input in that. We'll have, we've already done this is our first draft through this. There's a lot of different ways you can skin these cats. There's a lot of different priorities we can think about. There's probably 24 different ways you can find $300,000 in savings or potentially match that in revenue. So this is the process we want to use, starting with the committee, to use these next a few weeks to find a way, but we're not trying to close a $10.3 million hole. We're trying to close a $308,000 hole with each, and then this will move around a little bit, bits and pieces. What we'll probably find is that we'll find ways to open, to close these gaps, and then we'll find, with discussion, new potential things that open gaps, such as the budgeting and appropriations process. Okay, so I just kind of wanted to focus on that number. Again, don't have my memo in front of me if anyone wants any specific questions about it, but that's the general setup. This is our approach to, we actually went down in our appropriation number this year. We went from 66.1 to 64.1. And then again, we do see those expenses increasing, but a lot of those expenses are accounted for either by bonding, or we have certain expenses accounted for by certain things like 100% refundable grants, et cetera. It's going to account for a lot of our capital program. We'll get into that in public works and general funds expenditure. That's my 1,000-foot setup. I think from there we can start going into various
Well, I
parts.
went through the mayor's one, so go to the second page, is finance.
All right. Again, I know it's only been a short period of time in terms of addressing this, but does anyone have any general questions on revenues? That is the first page you see.
That's right. Yeah. Any questions? We'll go back to revenues. I forgot. I skipped over them. Alderman Cromwell.
Could I just say, I'm pretty much gonna sit here like a bump on the water. My day was nuts and I didn't have a chance to look at this, so I'm gonna look at all this later, so.
That's fine. That's why I said.
Just got one thing I'd like to ask about.
That's fine. That's why I said we gotta, I don't wanna do this right away, not to February, the next February meeting, we'll do March 10th. That way we give a month to answer any questions.
Yeah, so one highlight on revenue that I think is pretty important, and I think everybody understands it. The second line on revenue, account number 33005, is a very important line item for the operations of our city. It's our general property tax revenue. As you can see, we have a little bit of a discrepancy, here. We had proposed for, we had appropriated for $3.4 million. We took in 2.1. Well, that's what we all know to be the county lapse.
And we never got our second installment in 2025.
Still waiting on several of these things, but that's probably the most important highlight in terms of the revenue. There's a lot here, to your point, Alderman. There's a lot here. We have certain areas where we had overperforming revenues. We had certain areas where we had underperforming revenues. Myself, Deputy Administrator Petoska, Lauren with Kasperick, Treasurer Rita, we went through pretty much every single one of these line items with department heads. We've made adjustments based on our best estimation. With discussions with department heads, in certain cases, it's kind of plug and play. In certain cases, we have to discuss what we're potentially anticipating this year, right? So in each of our cases, our revenues remain relatively consistent. We're very much looking to increase on our water revenues. We've seen uptick in our water revenues, largely with the work that our water department and finance department have done with increasing the efficiency of our operations. But again, encourage you to go through this, fine tooth comb as best you can. we're happy to, you do have the PDFs, but we're happy to provide larger prints if you need. This is pretty small print, but every ledger tells a story. We're gonna see, different cases of where revenues are performing well and where we're looking to improve in the future, so. Okay, so mayor's office, we already did.
I just want to stop in revenues, just want to go over a couple of things.
Yes, go ahead.
So we have general property tax, obviously, because we only got one installment last year. If you move to sales tax, the reason why we're appropriating more money is because we did pass that 1%. It has been doing pretty good for us, and that's on a conservative end. We budgeted as a revenue 3.2. Probably will get more than that, but that's why that line item was increased. I know that's the only major change. I think we added the casino revenue on here also, 120 some thousand. Where's it at? 130,000 we collected last year, so we budgeted 130. That's a new revenue we didn't have also the previous year. Under casino gaming tax, 3147, that is the percentage of the casino we're getting from the Wind Creek in Homewood. So we're roughly getting about 10, 15,000 a month from that. So those are two new revenues we did not have before. We had the cannabis tax before, but we just want to make a point to that, but the sales tax and the casino are brand new revenues we did not have before. So continue, please. I just want to make a point to that on record.
The other one that you're gonna see a big change on is grants. There are some grants in the pipeline that we could potentially be getting. So there's 3 of them that we've talked about, so that's why you'll see that the grant revenue went up significantly. This is just so that we have that in there in case they come through. Obviously, you're gonna have direct expenses that go along with that. If the grants don't come through, then the expense won't come through, but this way we at least have it accounted for best case scenario. So if you see that big jump, that is why.
I know that those lead line was one of the grants. There were several green alley grants from the county. So that's all in that revenue
Yes,
side,
there's-
correct?
A build-up cook and a DCEO as well, right? That was the other 2.
Which one was it? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, you don't put that one. Should we put it in?
Oh, correct, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that-
I got you, so, we're gonna be doing some tag teaming here, just to get everything on the record. So towards the bottom of the page on the revenue page, account number 3910, sale of property. So it is a big enough adjustment that it is worthy of explanation, so, we've took in 71,000 in sale of property. We had appropriated for 300,000. These are always areas where we're looking at what property we're gonna sell, potentially hoping for estimate. So it's a very much a moving target. The reason that we've moved it to a $1.4 million line item this year is because the 119th and Vincennes property that is under a current agreement awaiting IDOT approval, that's the amount on it. So we actually might do better than that this year. That's our baseline. But I will say if we can land that and get that thing closed, it will help with the fact that we aren't getting the property tax loss that we would have expected. So yeah, that is a big enough adjustment that is worthy of an explanation. Go ahead, so we're back to you.
Quarterly highway maintenance, if you notice, a line item 3161. Was a drop in revenue from last year to this year, from 221,000 down to 72,000. That's primarily because we did not renew our annual maintenance agreement with IDOT roads. They were paying us $36,000 each quarter. Their fiscal year is different than ours. That's why we are still recording 72,000. But we will not be receiving any quarterly maintenance highway payments from the state anymore because we're not maintaining the roads. So that is a drop in revenue and why we're recognizing it as that.
I think that accounts for a lot of our revenue highlights at this point. Just as you go through, as you have additional questions,
Got one.
Yeah.
Actually,
please.
it is about this. My probably a big concern that I see is heading into the next year, or decade actually, is the condition of our water lines. We know they're failing more and more often. And obviously, we're doing something for the water tanks and so forth, it's great. And I'm seeing extra revenue. And I'm just wondering, any work that we do on water lines, does it have to be, can it be funded from general revenues, or does it have to be funded from water fund?
From the water.
Yeah.
So there's like, so let's say we collect, we collect this extra, $4 million to the sales for the property. We can
Right.
Use that to fix our water.
So water is a restricted fund.
Right.
I'm sure in a perfect world, water fund is a self-reliant fund, so we have to always collect more than we actually expend. If we wanted to go above and beyond, we can move money out of the general fund, but the general fund is always the weaker fund between
Right.
water and general.
Yeah, yes, but I mean, if we do happen to have like a little windfall this
It
year.
would have to be transferred by the council by action
Okay,
interfund
it could
transfer. It could be done,
Okay,
yes.
that's fine.
It's an enterprise fund, so it does, yeah, it has to stay, which is for good reasons that you don't want to be playing games with
Right.
an important, as an important thing as your water system. I will say, the majority of the biggest chunk of the money, in the water bonding is committed to the water tanks as the EPA requirement. There is also a water main, one of the water mains is included in there as well. That project will come before you through its bidding process, and boy, the sticker shock is real. Water mains are so expensive, but they're good investments. It's just that you get a plan to do what you think is X amount of distance, and then you're like, oh, that's a middle, how much? Like, so, yeah, but we are attending the three prongs of what, and I know Alderman Roll had wanted some detail on this too, so I do want to get this on the record. The three prongs that we are focusing on in terms of the $10 million in water bonding, the biggest chunk will be the two water reservoirs, the two tanks, right? Again, that's a good example. We're going to appropriate $6 million for that. We're not likely to spend $6 million this year, but when we ask the water engineers, they tell you, give us the runway if you can, because we might start one, get halfway through, and it might be more advantageous for us to start the other one. And it's going to be a 2-3 year project anyway. Anyway, the three prongs are water reservoirs, at least one water main, because one water main can be $2 to $5 million, and then as many water meters as we can replace. We should be on a schedule of 400, 400 to 600 a year. Water meter replacements is the schedule we should be on. We are 7 to 8 years behind on that. Right now, we've done some catch up here. Getting the whole commercial line done was important, and this council voted to give us the financial support to do that, and it's already shown some results in terms of its commercial uses are some of the biggest uses. Right, so when we're losing water, we're losing it in the thousands of dollars, not the dozens of dollars there. Right, so we are seeing improvement on that front, but the investment requirement over the next 10 years is going to be real. Right, so this is our effort to get off to a good start on that. Okay. There, for the finance, any main highlights of finance?
No, there wasn't any.
Yeah, when I say any main highlights, is things I'm looking for that look like big adjustments that are worthy of explanation on the record. A lot of this stuff, if it's minor adjustments, you see some of these smaller funds. We do our best to make the appropriation hit, and then, ask the questions about if it went up, why did it go up? Can it go back down? Did we have one-time expenditures into things like that? If it's maintaining relatively normally, had minor fluctuation year to year, we tend to leave the line item alone. Also, certain things like whenever you see, salaries is always something we're concerned about in the line item, but when you see things like FICA, Medicare, things like that, many of those are very fixed costs. We usually don't tinker with those very much. Those are going to be determined by, predetermined factors, obviously. Gen admin, so we had proposed $325,000 in salaries. We came in about $281,000. So, I think I make the argument we are not over bloated or overinflated in terms of our general admission, our general admission non-union salaries. I think we've stayed relatively controlled. If anything, I think we have room to grow and have reason to grow on some administrative positions moving forward in terms of focusing on things that improve efficiency. One of the things I would look to is that we did have a little bit of uptick in part-time, and the administration approves non-union part-time before it happens. We're looking at that to bring that down, but also that those part-time hours tend to represent effort and work. They're things that we approve because a predetermined reason that we needed that, we needed that employee at that time. So, moving forward, things stay relatively consistent. Building maintenance repair, we went a little bit over, but we had things to do at City Hall, but we still think most of those, we're getting ahead of the curve in terms of some of our building maintenance and repair. That's gonna be true, often consistent along, across City Hall. Engineering and legal fees, we went over on both. Again, cost of doing business, we're gonna try to adjust, we're gonna try to do our best to keep these things down. But when I fix streets, we get engineering. Legal fees, went over in large part because of two major cases, Vasquez and, Ravens. City attorney has additional to that, but I think those are the two big drivers of fees going over. Vasquez specifically, we had to hire a number of experts, et cetera. That alone probably drove it over the number. We'll have some more updates on that about in the next executive, so. Moving forward.
I got you. The other big discrepancy you'll see is the abandoned house grant expenses. We went over budget on that one, but that was because there were people that did not claim their funds. So Mark worked really hard on we started reallocating the funds to people that were using it. So we received more money, but we had to spend more money to be able to receive said money.
And I'll just add, in total, we were first awarded, $374,000 in grant money to demolish houses. And then last year, you guys authorized for us, to accept additional funds from IDA in the amount of approximately $185,000, brought it up to about $557,000 in total. We have expended all $557,000, demolitions and property maintenance on various houses. Over the last 4 years, we've demolished a total of 32 houses across the entire city.
There's anything else we've done. All right, so police department, obviously one of our bigger departments, I just refer to the big three: police, fire, public works make up the majority of our equipment, salary, union salary, all that. So, salaries, full-time sworn officers. I mean, obviously these are union defined, but was kept pretty well under control. Trying to go through the list here. Went a little bit over on overtime, well under on part-time. So again, we seek to tweak these adjustments. Overall, in terms of this as well, I did include the police department's end of year report on that. So that is more crime statistics and everything in terms of the operations of the department. They're good to look at together. What are the other highlights in here?
There wasn't.
Not a ton, right?
There was not a whole lot.
Guys, have anything you want to highlight on the budget?
No. I would just say overall, I mean, looking at the total amount that was appropriated in 2025 was $6.5 million. We actually ended up spending just under $5.9 million. So we're appropriating $6.6 million this year. However, we're appropriating, and as funds come through, we will manage our budget throughout the year too.
I have a quick question. How many civilian clerks are there for line item 5300?
So. Okay, no other questions on that. Like I said, police department has a lot of fixed costs. Good appropriation note here, good appropriation example, always something to consider. So obviously what we're looking at is our FY 25 costs as reconciled to date, and we are reconciled to date. However, we can't necessarily reconcile certain fixed payments that come in various times in the schedules and beyond our control. So a really good example on the second page of the police department is 6511 Cook County Dispatch Services. You might look at that and say, wow, we appropriated 500,000 and only spent 234,000. How did we do so well? This is in the back channel, basically. So it's coming down the pipeline, basically. We're gonna have additional costs by the time we're done with it. So we don't, again, when we leave line items like that alone, is because we don't go looking for savings in an area that is a fixed service like the 911 dispatch services, right? We'll pay what we pay on that. We may adjust it if we see a pattern over a few years, but just seeing that number saying it underperformed like that, there's still some money in the pipeline, and it's just not worth playing games with that, with those funds. You don't ever want to be in a situation where you're telling your 911 service that we didn't appropriate enough money for their services. So that pops up in various parts of an appropriations document, that the historical nature of it can mislead you. So I just want to touch on that. Okay, another questions. We'll move on to fire department. Again, came in a little under on salaries, a little over on overtime. Continue to work. It's forever our challenge. So, a lot of these are gonna be fixed and contractually based, cost on this. When we get down to towards the bottom quarter of the page there, and you see those three highlighted areas, since we're going to, a couple areas here, we're gonna be looking to combine line items so as not to have, superfluous or repetitive things. So vehicle trucks, vehicle parts, tire repairs, we think we can catch that in one line item about vehicle trucks and maintenance and repair. So, that, the final document will probably reflect it. We'll reflect that. So again, a lot of fixed costs here, probably, and so ambulance billing services.
Where we're at, we'll go.
So ambulance billing services, we've just, couple meetings ago, we got a new billing company, so we're expecting a little bit better return on our ambulance billing. We just did the lift assist ordinance as well, so I think we're in a right spot. I think after making these adjustments, we're gonna be in a better spot next year. We'll have some good data. A lot of stuff was a year in arrears, so now that's all catching up, so I think we're gonna be in a lot better spot next year. Do you guys have any questions on the ambulance billing in general?
Chief, you can let the council know, or hopefully the engine we ordered several years ago, we might get it this year, or is it next year now?
So with the engine we put in 2022, will be here next year around this time. We had talked about possibly doing a refurbished engine. I did get an answer back on, they're unable to finance that, so we would have to pay for that in whole.
Okay, we might have to make the adjustment then before the final version.
We appropriated for it.
So
it's in there.
as same issue we have with Public Works, we ordered trucks. Jog you guys' memory, so when we got into office, meaning about 5 years ago, this new administration, no equipment was purchased in the fire department, Public Works. Police for a number of years, so we're behind. We ordered 4 trucks in Public Works, we only got 1, and so they kind of canceled the contract. We ordered a fire engine, and we still haven't got it yet, so everything's still 4 or 5 years in arrears. So that's where my department heads have been told, if we need something 4 or 5 years from now, we gotta start ordering it now. Well, this fire truck is hopefully coming here next year. In the meantime, Chief Haywood looked into possibly totally refurbishing one of our existing used trucks at a fraction of the cost, and we might have to put that into the budget, instead of buying another one, and it'll get us another few years out of the trucks we already have.
Right, you could use it as a reserve engine after our new one comes in place.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. There's the ambulance billing services. Next, probably interesting highlights as we go through these. 782 grant pass-through expenditure. You're looking at an appropriation and actual 0 to 0 from 25 and then $500,000. So what that reflects is our desire to make significant progress on the fire museum next to the post office across from the street from us right now. This year, we do have somewhere in the area of between $200,000 and $300,000 in state assistance, some of which came in this past state budget, some of which had been rolled over from previous ones. So we are going to have some assistance with that, and we're looking at other grants areas too to bring the actual effect of the general fund down as much as possible. But we have already received several $100,000 in state assistance on this, so we are looking to make progress on that this year. So wanted to explain that, and then probably the last important line item within this is 80/50 vehicles. Which Chief just addressed, but obviously that is is a significant expenditure, but ambulances and engines will always be significant expenditures. We've made really good progress though, and that fleet and its crew are going to be much more, economically advantageous to the city moving forward based on the investments that we've made, so. Last page is just emergency supplies. Okay, we're getting into
Treasurer
some,
Reed's got a question.
yep, shoot,
Line item 6105, building repair.
6105, you said? Sorry about
6105, is that what you were just referring to?
Wait a minute. On the fire department, then?
Yeah.
Okay, so 6105 building maintenance and repair?
Yeah, Chief, did you wanna go say something about that line item?
I don't know, I'm not sure what it's at, Well, what are we doing with building maintenance and repair this year is more important question.
So I think what a lot of people forget is we have two stations, right? One was built in 1964, the other one was remodeled in 49, I believe it is, or 46. So it just takes a lot of upkeep. This year we got a grant for an overhead door, but to make them match, we gotta buy the other 4 doors, so it's expensive. We do go through that pretty much every year. 100,000 is pretty much a standard amount. So, just gonna keep us running it smoothly the way we are.
And just to point out too, we've increased staffing over the last couple of years in the fire department, so we are having to redesign their living quarters because we're housing more people on each shift.
So is that line item? Is that our- Did you say it's sufficient enough?
If we have more money to put in there, we could certainly use it to make things better. So,
Good to know. Anything else on fire department before we move on? All right. Emergency management department, obviously this is adjusted over the years, we're kind of just our emergency management situation is pretty well spoken for. We have police, fire, and public works. We have a very thorough crews on emergency management.
Okay, so that was formerly as, however, a lot of that has been absorbed by the community service officers in the police department now. But we also just don't want to completely limit it for whatever reason they come up.
Next is civil service. Again, this is somewhat fairly plug and play. This is the civil service money that's used for the personal and hiring exams, professional consulting. We didn't even use any money in that. Most of the money out of here is for the personnel and hiring exams, and then legal fees. The civil service commission needs legal notices. The civil service commission is required.
Police and fire board.
Police fire board, sorry. Still writing 2025 on my checks even. So. All right, then we get to the third of our big three, which is Public Works Department. Okay, so again, salaries full-time, coming in a little bit
I
on.
wanna, I'm gonna cut you off.
Yeah.
Mike, did go through this with us
Yes.
and followed up with me this week on possibly some small trucks and stuff that he says we should look into doing, so he did that before he left.
Just in that regard, does the line 5100 reflect, I think I recognize need to beef up management in public works?
I think the mayor spoke to that, well, I'm not gonna speak to that, but I think that,
It's the water department, which would be a
Oh,
different
okay.
page, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I would
And the
say,
bill might be adjusted
Yes.
more before the March date, once we define exactly what that is. I still have to have conversations with our we have a water department now within the Public Works Department, we have water operators within there. And I want to have some conversations with them first before we formulate the job description and post it.
Okay.
and to piggyback on that, obviously, everything's gonna.
Alderman Johnson, the question? I thought I saw your hand.
I
do, but I won't get.
No, it's just everything's gonna speak to the city appropriation and what we can spend as a whole. If, you know, from my chair as city administrator, of course, I'm gonna say, Alderman, if you're encouraging, the salaries full-time is union and non-union there, right? So if we're encouraging that we should beef up the department, I think that would be a good thing for the city and our operations anyway, but I always want more, right? So.
Sure, I'll agree.
Yeah, I was looking at the part-time salaries on, public works, and I know I'm ahead on the water department. And I was wondering if we could try to beat that up in some manner, if you part-time guys is what, at 32 hours,
Mhm.
considered full-time, we would have to get up the benefits, but what if we had
Yeah, I think a lot of that spoke to our summer help, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so,
So that, I was just asking if we could get more, that would be great, or even more full-time, because both those departments are lacking, employees and
Very good.
especially,
very
and I
good.
was looking at the overtime as well, because that's what they gotta do.
Right. Well, yeah, and this, certain departments overtime, it's harder to control than others. A water main break at 3 a.m. is a water main break at 3 a.m. So.
Just pointed out, we've had a break every single day for 7 days.
Sure. Open for tomorrow.
Breaking record.
Friday. You might have noticed the Facebook post, so. Okay, yeah, Medicare, I'm gonna kind of punch through
I'm
that.
sorry.
No. Sometimes you'll see things occasionally, and again, this is just appropriation discussion as overall, like 6,100 equipment maintenance and repair. When we see that we only spent 2,000, 18,000 appropriation, we bring that down a little, but certain items are more volatile than others. And so we look at the past several years of history and try to make and talk to the directors and staff and try to make our best estimation that we'd rather have the room. It could be tempting to say, well, you appropriated 18,000 last year, you only spent 2,200, so you only need 5,000 this year. Well, next year could be different. Some of these are moving targets harder to hit. It's better to keep some room in there if you can afford to do so. So, things like service contracts, I would say the same thing. We spent $25 on 18,000. Yeah, we brought it down to 5,000, but we don't want to bring it down to 0 because you don't know what the next year brings. So, a lot of pretty decently controlled spending there in public works. Some things like, yeah, electricity, those are things we'll adjust, or we might have had one-off reasons why we were using more electricity at that time. Just kind of generally, usually by the time you get down to, all right, so 6655 garbage and recycling, this is a big line item, so I always bring it up, but it's also, pretty tied to our contract. We have seen a reduction in roll-offs.
Yes.
Over the past, so a lot of that is working. The reduction in roll-offs does help keep us in line. If you remember, we were seeing this get a little further away. We did adjust the proposed to get to where we think we're, but what we think we can get to, but we are seeing this, this was a little bit of an out of control number when we passed when we signed our last LRS contract, when this council signed our last LRS contract. We're seeing some of the progress on that. We're seeing some more controlled costs.
What line item are you on right now?
Sorry, 6655 garbage and recycling, that's LRS.
Yeah.
So that's just, it's a fixed cost with some performance-based metrics into it, so I always like to highlight it, so. 7330 street alley resurfacing, so, Mayor, I don't even want to speak to that 2.1 mil. That's state assistance,
I'm sorry, what line item?
7330.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
So,
Obviously, there's revenues on this side. There's streets that we did receive 100% funding for to do. This year is gonna be a more constrictive year, but we're not gonna turn money away. That's free. So we had to budget the amount, possibly up to $22.1 million in street resurfacing money is on the table. Doesn't have to be spent all this year, but we want to make sure we appropriate for it depending what the bids come in at. And we also have to finish the alley project. I think we have like 5 hanging out there still.
so. And then in vehicles, we did get somewhat caught up in our fleet. We did not spend the pot that we had plotted for that, but we do, it's public works. We're gonna have vehicle expenses, so we're gonna, and there's gonna be inevitably some things, I'm not sure what we have.
This was a small plow truck, I believe. That vehicle.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
2 or 3
potentially
small
potentially
plow trucks, yes.
Okay. Any other questions on public works before we move forward? Hey. Okay, building department, on the separate revenue report, that I have a separate annual revenue report. Building department did very good with revenues this year. So they did go a little bit over its salaries full-time. They stayed a little bit under in part-time. We do have some of our more senior inspectors who moved from full-time to part-time as they kind of a little bit later in their career. And we did go a little bit over in overtime, only by a couple thousand. Building department has been very good about getting permission on any overtime, and the overtime is well used. if they're coming in on a Saturday, they're coming in to read a print for a job, a permit that we want to get, that's, to the advantage of the city, to try to keep the ball moving. We are looking to increase salaries full-time. We do feel that we need, to beef up staffing a little bit in building department, possibly consider, a second administrator there. The building department's moving to function, but it bears a lot of stress. It's a constant moving conveyor belt, right? And if we want the permits and the prints and our business and our residents, all your residents, who, and I'm sure you probably have heard some of it, right? Can take a little bit longer to get a permit on a basic thing that you like, because that's the conveyor belt, that's the bottleneck, that's how many people we have, how many hours in the day, et cetera. So we actually have been, I sign off on overtime on Saturdays and things like that for building department, if it means we're getting the stuff done.
Alderman, Treasurer, do you have a question?
You mentioned the revenues for the building department, are they on this operating revenue?
General fund revenue, what's gonna be, but I'm gonna get you a more detailed
Okay.
department specific. I got the monthly from this month, but it occurred to me I didn't have enough time on, it. But I am gonna send it to the council, because I think it speaks directly to the activity of the department. But I'm gonna get you a more department specific breakdown that's very clear and easy to understand, rather than having to sift through a whole layer. Yeah.
Treasurer, you'd also have a question.
Sorry. How many full-time, salary employees are there again?
Building inspectors,
Building inspectors. That's like,
right?
Full-time
clerk.
line item 500.
Oh, but full-time inspectors, we have,
Also the line item 510.
okay, so that would be the building inspector, the full-time clerks, and the full-time property inspectors.
Sure.
So that's building inspector, there are 3 property inspectors, and there are 3 clerks.
Yes.
But we only want.
Everyone else is
building
part-time.
inspector.
We only have 1 full-time building inspector. All of our other building inspectors are part-time. Now, it's not uncommon. You have building inspectors who are people with deep experience in the trades, right? Who know how to talk to a contractor, but then usually means they're later in their career. So we are anticipating that we'll see some turnover in that this year, and we'll have to find, we found good people before, we'll have to find good people again. But yes, right now, our building official, Bob Eslenko, is the only full-time building inspector that we have in terms of property inspector is one thing, right? Building inspector is another.
Is that right? So is that what the $43,000 jump is? What is that for?
Predicted cost of living adjustments and hopefully a new inspector or 2.
Another department, we need more personnel.
We've always had more than 1 building inspector, so this is the lowest
Yeah.
we've been staffed there.
Well, it does create an issue, as I don't know, so the building official had nine inspections yesterday. So, and then, so why isn't this print getting done? Well, they had 9 inspections on one day, right? So it is a bandwidth issue, and if we want to improve efficiencies, it would behoove us to.
And I understand because I got new homes being built on things.
100%. So. Pretty plug and play expenditures, the rest of the building department after that. They don't do a lot of travel and transportation, like I said, you see a lot of stuff, we kind of leave some of these there. If we can get a little more stable in the department, which everyone isn't kind of like, their day isn't spoken for, we would like to do a little bit more training. Had conversations about that, a little bit more training, we want to, professional training, this is just building and getting better with our staff, with our professionalism, with our abilities, our technical skill, all of it. So we leave these line items relatively small as they are, like going to that second page, in hopes that if not this year, then we leave them there for next year in hopes that we're, in a better place next year. Okay, so that is building departments. The next is the also fun topic of risk management. So medical insurance premiums, we actually hit that darn close this year, so we did increase it because you always have to assume some increase. Life insurance premiums, again, pretty well close. Our insurance numbers are pretty well close. Settlement payments, we had a lower than normal year. Now we'd set that number because we set 400,000 last year, and we only paid 63,000, and we'd set that 400,000 because we had seen some stuff the previous years that reflected, and we're preparing for something. The $900,000 is specific to matters that we discussed in the executive about pending litigation.
Alderman.
So, I just wonder, since I know we want to set a number that was kind of maxed, it seems like it might be low. I mean, I hope it's.
No, and I'm looking at the city attorney because I don't know what level of this is appropriate to discuss here versus closed session.
That's just my.
I believe we could have a healthy back and forth about what we were thinking and what we anticipate this year, but I'm a little
No, I get it.
paused to say that in open session, I guess.
Well, no.
And same kind of story, personal civil claims. We kind of kept that where it is. That's always a moving target. We're hopeful to, we always hope to keep the number down, but as you know, we do not have any kind of legitimate catastrophic liability insurance. So this is essentially how we adjust for that. So, medical liability claims came in a little bit under, but we want to keep a healthy number there because we don't know what medical liabilities come up. Insurance fees, kind of the same story there. As a side note, I know the idea of, and this is not appropriation based, but I know Fern, we talked about this, we all talked about this a lot. The hunt for the white whale of general liability insurance for the city, okay? So we are, Mayor and I have had a lot of conversations about this. We are going to be going to this market again. I'm not gonna say we got it this time, but here's why I'm gonna at least tie a ribbon of optimism. Is that this is the first year in 2026 that we will be able to go to a potential broker and say, here's a legitimate 5-year loss run that I can sign off on as a city administrator, as I'm not guessing what happened before me. I'm not guessing what previous administrators or law firms did. This is one law firm, one administration, one council. And that's it. So the path should be clear in the hopes of, because we're kind of a novel thing to an insurance broker. What do you mean you've never had insurance? I've heard that a lot. So we have to tell them a little bit of a narrative about who we are and why we're doing this. My hope is that our narrative is stronger in year 5 than it was in year 2, 3, and 4.
And let's just be clear, we have moved the ball in the right direction. We have golf course liability coverage, we have property insurance, we have vehicle insurance, and all these things. We have recreational CalSag trail insurance, parking lot insurance, things we didn't have 5 years ago. So we're moving in the right direction. It's just trying to get a broker to.
And when we don't have true workers' comp liability insurance, we do use the third-party administrator for our workers' comp, which does help create the record that insurance companies want to see. That you're as limited a liability as you can be, that we're not cowboys, and that we do keep our paperwork, and that we do our homework, and that we do follow, the rules and process our claims, etc. So again, we are going to go back out in the market. We're going to aggressively pursue it again this year.
I'm not one for lights, candles, and all this kind of stuff, but I'm for any ritual required.
We're all with you there. We might have to do pentagram together.
Much appreciated.
It's Lent coming up, let's be careful. So, okay, rec center is next. Again, some of these departments now we're to.
We
So
skipped the
that is
marketing.
marketing. Yeah, you want to explain? Or either.
With the line item 7083. We have, as many of you know, the CalSag Trail was built over the last 10 years. Originally it was supposed to run along the entire CalSag channel. It currently runs along Vermont Street. We are working to apply for a grant with Cook County for Build Up Cook to do a feasibility study to reroute the trail back along the CalSag channel. If we don't get the funds for it from the county grant, then we won't be doing it this year.
I'm sorry, did you say it's first?
A feasibility study, correct.
Feasibility.
Okay, marketing budget. Outside of that, it is pretty plug and play. If you have any questions, let us know, but
We're gonna have questions on meetings and seminars. We could have utilized some of that for like candy. That's it.
Candy Monday.
Yeah.
So, okay. Rec center, I wanna check one thing real quick. Alderman Johnson, I'm gonna get ahead of something here and say that line 6650 has not been properly adjusted yet. You and I need to have a conversation. I know there's a splash pad conversation we need to have that is not properly reflected in there yet, so. So this is gonna get some adjustment before the final play. Outside of that, and then when I say 6650, I'm going 2/4 way down the page. Maintenance, repair, outside contractor, or building maintenance and repair. One of those line items is gonna have to get adjusted to the specific improvement we had talked about. So we'll address that before a final cut. Outside of that, a lot of these expenses, I said, we go through them, adjust them as such, but the operations of the rec center tend to be pretty consistent. Any activities at the rec center that involve any finances tend to be run through the Blount Park District. We don't say it's not a rental property per se, so there's no revenues tied to the rec center for the city's sake. All right. Out of the rec center, back into the deep water. Water department. Obviously, our public works and water department function from a salaries and employment standpoint, very similar, but then there's also administrative salaries that play into salaries in the water department, including myself and Mr. Petoskis.
So we raised this to reflect its cost of living and a little bit more. We might have to raise it a little bit more based on my conversations with our water department.
Right.
To see if we're doing a new position.
Again, how many, employees in line item 5100? You know, by,
How many people are in our water, or how many water operators do we have?
Three.
Three water operators, but then
Yeah,
go ahead.
So-
yeah, they might have 5100.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So what we have a couple different things going on here. We have our 3 water operators that are full-time paid out of water. You have all of the clerks downstairs in the water department taking the water payments that are paid 100% downstairs. But then you also have the public works department that their salaries are actually split between public works and water, as well as Tom and Mark, because they also do a lot of different things in regards to water. Part of their salary is also allocated there. So it's not just a cut and dry, we have X amount of employees,
Yes.
it's so many full-time, and then some are just allocations.
So we don't have a number.
I can get you a number,
Okay,
there's just quite a few of them.
got it. Thanks.
But there's quite a few that are at
Yeah.
50% or lower,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, depending on how much we figure. Okay.
in the overtime, Treasurer just pointed out too.
Water breaks.
Obviously, the water breaks, and we raised it to match, and a little bit exceed what we budgeted for last year, or what we actually spent for last year, knowing the trend we're going down, looking at right now. So that's overtime for water breaks.
Some of those public works employees.
Yes. Yes.
Medical insurance, I was going through the kind of the bigger ticket items, or anywhere where it underperformed. If you look at like 6103, that's another good example of a volatile line item, just to say. We appropriated 75, looking at the previous 2 to 5 years of history, we only came in at 26, so good for us, but we're only gonna drop that to 50 because that could easily spike back up, so this is kind of the philosophies that we do. Very more to the point, 6105, building maintenance and repair. We didn't have to do a lot at the water department this year, but we are through discussions with Mike Shorter before I left, through discussions with the water operators. We're looking at when we make repairs to the public works buildings that house both public works and the water department, how are we gonna divvy up those costs to account for the fact that they speak to both departments?
Just in case anybody didn't know, we have a separate water department garage off Kitty Corral Park, 121st and Highland Avenue, that needs substantial work, extermination, rusting, roofing issues. Mike went through all the quotes.
Obviously, the biggest line item on here is 6310, water from Chicago. Do you want to talk about it?
Sure. The dollar amount that the city of Chicago charges is based off of the CPI for the Chicago land area for the previous year. So we'll be getting that letter later this month, but it's also based off of on the amount of consumption that we actually import from the city of Chicago too, so.
It's up like 18%. I mean, according to if we were to spend what we're talking about.
It's no more than 5% each year on the actual cost that the city of Chicago charges us per 1,000 gallons. But it's also based off of how much water our water customers consume.
So if there's something that's pushed water consumption up by a lot.
Well, we have a lot of, so it went gradually down over a number of years because a lot of businesses and like the hospital, a huge sucker of water went away. We are budgeting a little bit, so some of these commercial properties have gone back on the market and they're occupied now, so we wanna make sure we're reflecting that as an expense, because we're gonna be buying more water. And there's other things that we were gonna talk about in a few meetings down the road that possibly are going to, like the Omnitrax, they're gonna be eating up water, there's different developments now going on, there were vacant properties before.
And then Fairview, different places that they should have.
There's always that maximum 5% base
It's
cost.
better to be more conservative on, it's gonna cost us more money than it is.
Thank you.
And
Water
we,
meters.
to your point, we pay for the water, including the water that we lose. We pay for the water, including the water that the customer doesn't pay for in whatever way. So when we have, the loss at Forest View, when we have the loss at Nassau, when we have the loss of some of these, those are two big ones. And we still have to, now, the work, and I have to give a lot of credit to Mark and to Mike before he left, and to Latrice and Amy in our clerk's department, and to our public works guys. From the time we got here to the time we're at now, we are losing a lot less water. We are accounting for a lot more water. We're seeing that in the billing numbers. We're seeing that in the water loss numbers. We're gonna be hell or high water on good paper with the EPA and our water loss and water audit. We're getting caught up on that, but this was seriously behind and took a lot of untangling and work, and just pumping a lot of caffeine into Patoska. But no, I mean, it really was yeoman's work to get us even to where we are. So we're gonna continue to see improvements in this water department, but it is a major project that we're involved in. It's gonna be something that we'll be working on the entirety of all of our time here.
And then we budgeted more money to keep replacing our water meters, as we said earlier, we're way behind, we're trying to catch up to getting us back with more accurate readings of the water.
So on the water meters,
Yeah.
we budgeted $360,000 this year. Previous year, we budgeted $38,000. And water meters will cost us on install approximately $350 per meter if we use an outside contractor. When we did do the major water replacement for the commercial line, we replaced just under 700 meters over that 1.5 year period from November of 2023 through the end of 2024. In 2025, we did not use any outside contractors to replace any meters, and we replaced 253 meters in 2025. A little bit lower, like I said, if we want to be on a 15-year replacement cycle for the water meters, we have 5,600 water meters in the city of Blue Island. If we want to be on a 15-year replacement cycle, we should be replacing approximately 370 meters per year. If we want to be on a 20-year replacement cycle, we should be replacing about 270 meters per year. And as soon as you get done with all 5,600, you go right back to the beginning, because they have a life cycle of about 15 to 20 years per meter. And we're constantly running a report every single month, finding these meters that are outliers, scheduling the appointments. And we've been doing it all in-house, and I'm proud that we got 253 meters done in 2025, all in-house with 3 water operators. In addition to them doing the water main breaks and everything else, making sure that the chemicals are correct at pumping houses and everything else. They're also out there replacing those meters, and those meters can only be touched by a certified water operator from the city of Blue Island or a licensed plumber by the state of Illinois, so. And we improve the meters, we improve the reading on those meters, and we improve revenue as well, so.
Okay. That's water meters, water for Chicago, went through all that. What are you looking at?
Well, because the last couple of really big things that we have are line 7082, which we put aside for some potential MWRD money that could potentially coming in just like the previous grants I talked about, if we get the money, we have there to spend it, if not, then we don't. As well as there is also a 1.4 for lead line replacements that we went out for. Once again, we get that money, we'll spend it. And the largest change, which Tom talked about earlier, we have the 9.7 for infrastructure improvements. That would be for the main breaks, that'll be for the towers, that'll be all the bond money that you guys have, went out for and received. The money has all been received, it's all, sitting in an interest-bearing account, ready to go as soon as we can get through the whole bid process and get the project started.
Guess you hit all the maintenance requirements. All right, good.
I'm gonna do the business district one.
Yeah, if you wanna go ahead, I was just looking up the path.
So this is gonna be a drier year in the
Because
business
I'm working on
district,
everything.
because IDOT's not gonna let us really spend any money until 2027 at the earliest, as we've mentioned several times at the council. A lot of these fees are continuing and they're also mostly reimbursable because we got, SEP funds, set funds for, phase one. 2 and 3, which is 119th to 127th to Grove. So that's engineering, permitting, those prices are in here. We got these numbers straight from Travis. We built a little more money because we have under streetscape, there are some, punch list items that weren't completed with Old Western and also 1.5, but it should fall way below that. We're not doing any major construction years with streetscaping because obviously IDOT, and I don't want to repeat myself again with my feelings on that, but we're moving in the right direction, and a lot of these funds are reimbursable through the grants we receive for phase 1, 2, and 3.
Next would be golf course. So, overall golf course expenditures, were pretty well maintained, came under our salaries, full-time and part-time. A lot of the operational expenses, pretty, pretty well either in line or under. So the budget was kept pretty well there. Get down to about a little below halfway to the page, you get to 6110, vehicle, truck maintenance and repair. Obviously, we, went over there, so we're adjusting our line item there. The vehicle fleet, the various stuff we have there, it's a little bit antiquated, although we do need to invest over the next few years in the golf course. I think Alderman Rick could probably tell you we're still catching up on some investment that wasn't made probably at the time that it should have been. But still, again, mostly the expenditures came in. Pro shop merchandise went up, but the pro shop revenue also went up as well. So what was coming in was also going out. Food for resale, like I said, food, alcohol, same, for the most part, either, food went over, but the revenues went over as well. But all of it, we just have to keep going up for food. Bulk food is just expensive. Bulk meat in any way, shape or form, hot dogs, hamburgers, whatever we're doing, it's just expensive. And canned goods are getting more expensive by the day, aluminum, everything else. So we just anticipate continued increases in there. And we have to adjust our prices to the public as a result. So water.
Sure. For water, we actually made our final, for the golf course water account. We don't pay it on a monthly basis, we pay it on an annual basis, just to wait for the end of the year. It's showing up as $202,000 in, water expense in 2025. It's because we paid a portion of, we paid the entire 2024 water expense on January 3rd of 2025, so it's showing up like that.
I got a question. Are we planning on making adjustments for improvements for the golf course?
Yes. So. Give me a second, we'll get there, because actually I think we could probably sort of fast forward there. Improvements for the golf course. Is your focus buildings and grounds, Alderman? Is it's the overall operations, the look of it?
Building, improving the country club, things of that nature.
Yeah.
Just wanna also set that aside with what we talked about with
So,
recreation.
Alderman, right now, we got the core samples done last year. Moving towards, you're talking about replacing the clubhouse in the future. Most likely 99% is nothing's gonna happen this year, because we're still waiting for some engineering to come back. And the architect, Mr. Safar, who is third generation architect, who's so far been doing pro bono work for the city on behalf of the Ken Jalama's friendship, has been designing different layouts based on the core samples, that what's natural ground, what's garbage dump. But right now, it looks like we're not gonna have to budget anything for this year, outside of possibly paying for some more engineering work, or possibly if he decides to send us a bill for architecture work. But other than that, not really any major construction going on at the golf course for this year outside of regular maintenance. Alderman, do you have a question? And then just to let the council know, we talked about this several years ago, and I know the previous administration was talking about this because I inherited a lot of blueprints and work from Robinson. So the clubhouse originally was built in '94. I know Alderman Rutherford has a lot of history on this. It was built as a temporary clubhouse. It was a glorified garage made into a clubhouse. It's never a permanent structure. There's a lot of issues with the property, the building sinking in certain areas. Obviously needs total rebuilding. And the profit that the golf course has been showing would be good to invest in the future. If something down the line would happen with the golf course, it would be a loan tied to the golf course, not interfering with all these other funds. But we're not at that point yet. We're just doing research and development right now. That's it.
And so to the mayor's point, Alderman, we share this dream. I think the mayor shares this dream with you. Like we have a vision for what this thing can be. Such as it is, the city has a certain amount of debt authority that it can lean on. We chose to use that debt authority to address the water system this year. I would like personally, I think we'll be having further discussions about this, as we see improvements in the operations and the revenue of the golf course, which would be important in terms of, the mayor's talking about having a plan to say, can we build a better clubhouse and golf course more in the vision, and then build a business plan that has revenues that pay for it over time, right? And it's something the city can be proud of. All right, so now to your question about what we're doing in general improvement, I mean, so if we get towards the end of this here, the bottom portions of this, we're still, we invested $85,000 in the improvements of the buildings and grounds. We're gonna keep that $100,000 line item there because we did some extra things this year. We wanna make sure that the course looks the part, right? We have seen some. I'm a golfer. I play on the Meadows. All right, I play on the Meadows probably more than any other single course. It's a tough course to maintain, but we are seeing some improvement. Right? But it does take time and money. And then machinery and equipment. We're proposing an increase of $150,000 this year. Again, that's, I think, something Alderman Rutherford could speak very intelligently to. We have equipment in there that's 20 years old that is maxed out 5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, these are specific to greens mowers, they're
94,
1998,
yeah.
95. Obviously you need a nice green, you need green mowers to cut the green.
So they cannot be repaired anymore, and we discussed either buying new or buying used, and we're gonna budget and try to buy new. If not, they have used ones that are rebuilt, but we're gonna try to buy new because they'll last us another 20 years.
So what's our thought about the bottom line here on the golf course? Losing more money. We expected to be more money than we did previous year.
What line item are you looking?
I'm sorry, I'm back on the front page, just looking at the revenue. On the front page of our document here, that just shows you expenses versus revenues. And I see a negative $156,000 for actual last year, projected negative $261,000 this year.
That's not, if we made a profit, I think that's projecting over budget appropriation from the previous year, correct?
Yes, and I would also point out that 6675 ServiceScape, that went over, but that did not go over by accident. That was a conscious decision. We did sign off. That was in one of my memo with this. We did sign off on some specific one-time improvements that had to be made. Now, granted, we're still projecting for, aiming high for next year, but I do think that speaks to in part of it. I think we need to look at the revenue in comparison with this as well. But I think we can have a more fleshed out conversation about it, but.
Point out, the revenues do not, reflect the cash that we had on hand at the beginning of the year. So we had cash on hand at the end of 2024 that we were utilizing in 2025 to make some of these improvements at the golf course.
Okay, but again, I'm just seeing, we're projecting, I mean, I know this is projection, but it's projection, unless we're gonna lose almost $250,000 in 2026 on the golf course.
And again, we have, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we have about $350,000 in our golf course funds right now.
Okay, then maybe I not quite understand.
Let's put a breakdown and send it to you guys with
Yeah,
other
yeah,
questions.
yeah.
An individual breakdown of just the golf course, and overall, even taking depreciation out of the parking lot we built, I've been, I think 3 years in a row or more, we've been operating on a net revenue.
So I do understand what you're saying, and I do want to give you, I want to provide some more context and have a broader discussion. So the reason we're doing this now, so we have a month to talk about this, this is just kind of language here. I don't look at that as us losing that money. I say that's what our projected expense is, and then we're going to, in this particular department, because it's the only department we have is literally retail based, right? So to say, okay, then what's our green fees look like? What are we charging for a beer? What are we charging for a hot dog? That all plays into it as well.
And also
right?
the treasury report, I don't have it in front of me, but there's a surplus in the 3 or 4 line items. The golf course has been surplusing, rolling over funds every year because it's making a profit. You can take a look at the last treasury report. So this is was a snapshot of just the 1 year. It's not taking effect good years, bad years. We spent 100 and some thousand in golf parking lots. They're good for 25, 30 years with depreciation. So, but I think we send out a breakdown and I'll answer a lot of those questions.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next fund is the motor fuel tax fund, MFT. Obviously, this is the MFT money generated, sent by the state, sent to the city. We use it for our infrastructure needs, as it relates to, roads, bridges, alleys, et cetera. So what we're gonna see here is that this is one of the areas, this is one of the funds that we utilized, to catch up on our streets and alleys that we have been woefully behind on. And so we're gonna see a little bit of a dial down this year. So we appropriated 1.4 out of this. We wound up spending just shy of 990,000 on that. We're gonna bring that down to 643,000. That's reflective of the cash on hand. It's reflective of what we expect the fund to generate, but it's also reflective of kind of the overall approach that we've taken, which is we had to get aggressive and we use some of these dedicated funds to get aggressive on the money that it is there for us. It is sent to the city to do these things. Had accumulated some, but we were seeing just not enough, too much delayed work on our streets and alleys. So I think over the past 5 years, this administration and council have made a really good amount of progress. We're still going to continue on that progress, but in a fashion that allows those funds to regenerate. I think that's an overall philosophy we have with a lot of these dedicated funds, TIP funds, things like that this year. That we hit them hard for the reasons that they were supposed to be hit, right? For the things that they're supposed to pay for. And now that we've gotten aggressive with that, now we're looking at our ledgers, looking at where we're at. We're still going to continue. We still have our priorities. We're still moving forward. We're doing streets and alleys this year. We're paying for it, someone out of general, someone out of state assistance, county assistance. Grant funds, but then also using the dedicated funds that we have to do the things that we need to do. So it's just a matter of, we want to move as fast with this as we can every year, but like any household, any business, you take, okay, what do we got this year? How much can we get done? And then this will replenish. Also, these dedicated funds, as we get into TIP funds, stuff like that, all these are affected by the delays in county property taxes. So we want to give them time to get caught up.
I got one question. Like, I know we're trying to do that, we have that other water department building. Is it possible to make that also an extra, like for an extra truck, for like a small truck for salt, like small stuff, salt? So I'm seeing that we still buying salt from the summer, which is great, and we get lower prices for it.
Right.
And then I'm looking at budgeted for it because, only a storm material which you can use.
Right.
And so I was just saying that, if there's room to do so, if we could.
I think we are budgeting possibly 2 brand new trucks split between Public Works and Water Department.
Yeah. Cause I'm just saying, if we're gonna redo that one small water, building, if it's possible, they can either have a truck loaded there or have an area for more salt.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so moving on to MFT, that brings us to Yeah, one, sure, I mean, this is
The pensions is a very
pretty dry
simple,
stuff.
yeah, the pensions are always an interesting one because it's not really money in, money out on the.
Yeah, they take it
city
off the top.
side. Yeah, basically you guys pass your tax levy, you say we're gonna levy X amount for the tax, or for the pensions. They get their money, and so we show it as revenue and we show it as our contribution to the pensions for our portion of the pension, so it's very cut and dry. Nothing very exciting. The other part of it is we do pay a portion of our PPRT revenue to them, so that's what that second line is.
Is the kind of variance between 25 approve and actual have to do with the delayed property tax?
Yes.
Yeah, so you're seeing about half all of them, half.
Yeah, unfortunately, that Cook County delay really,
I'm Treasurer Reed had a
Are we, I know that we were way when I first got elected. We were doing kick the can with it for a while with the pension. And I was just wondering if we are making over the minimum payment and getting closer to where we should be.
yes. So, we've definitely been working with, looking at the actuary reports, because obviously these actuary reports that are received, you have the minimum statutory and then you have the recommended. And I think every year since I've worked on it with these guys, we've always been on the, closer to the recommended than the minimum
Yes.
statutory.
Yeah, and we've been eating away at it. I know, talking to other mayors, we're at 50% funded in one of them, and
Something like
something like that. We're way ahead of a lot of towns. They're like at 10%. And I know my predecessor, we actually agreed on this, because we started doing this before I was mayor. And their attorney represented Oak Lawn, they were like, oh, it's 10% or something like that. I'm like, so we are eating up closer as we can, above and beyond the minimum required by the state.
Correct. Then the next one is CDBG. We are going out for another CDBG grant for potential $500,000. You'll see $500,000 as revenue, $500,000 as expenses. Once again, money comes in, we'll spend it. If not, then it'll just sit there.
Okay, then we get into our tax increment finance districts after this. One just sort of top line is actually, I think. Change to 3. So one of the things we did between last year and this year is, we just had TIFs named as one, TIF 1 through 8. It's more common practice to name a TIF after some version of either the geography or what it's meant for. So we kind of went through that process. So we have, I think, officially changed the TIF 3 name, but.
TIF 3 is just expiring and we.
It's got the $120 in there.
Yeah.
Okay, good deal. So yeah, our existing TIFs, so, each just kind of change their name and title, but they, reflect various various regional districts in the city and what we want to use tax increment and financing for. Either you want to get them more? Yeah, if there are any. Yeah, so I mean, primarily what we use these for is what it's meant for, which is repairs and development projects in their respective districts,
Yes,
right?
it's
So-
capital improvement, economic development, the
Yeah.
only two big things you could use it for.
Right, so anything capital zone, anywhere where if we're doing a street, alley, that we can defer some costs off of the general fund, off of the water fund towards TIF funds, we do that. Certain economic development projects, we've used it for, depending on where it's at and we're happy to get kind of more detailed breakdowns as you see. We defer some engineering costs into there. That's a useful thing. Again, a lot of this is used as a keep as much keep projects moving, economic development projects, capital projects moving, while having minimal impact on your general revenue operations and your other funds. So please look through those. If you have any specific questions, we're happy to talk about kind of what we're projecting. Much of this is tied to these things that Lauren and Mark and the mayor had talked about, which is we're going to appropriate funds in the hopes of that, these reimbursable projects through the state, some of these grant projects through the county, areas that we'll be able to utilize some of these funds and then get the money reimbursed to us. So yay for us, but we gotta have the money on the upfront to reimburse. So, that,
Treasurer Reed has got a question.
So for the uptown 5. Do we have? Are we making sure that we have enough funds to do bridge inspections?
Yes.
We believe we can.
About $50,000 per year on those bridge inspections for the Chatham Street Bridge and the Division Street Bridge.
I know I ask it every year, but
Yeah.
I was here when we did it, so I have to ask.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, one of the first things that the former treasurer told me was make sure that you're using the funds for these annual bridge inspections, please.
Just so, and a clarification for the public that might be listening, the city is one of the only municipalities in the state that owns its own bridges, the size of bridges that we own. We actually own 3 bridges completely. The Chatham Street Bridge, the Division Street Bridge, and then we have a bridge over Thorn Creek, which is in TIP 2, which is Midlow Creek District. Small little tiny bridge that I didn't even know we had until I became mayor. So we completely own 3 bridges, which is unusual for a municipality our size.
And when you own it, you have to inspect it.
We are the only municipality that owns bridges along the entire Cal-Sag channel.
Yes. Good for us, right? More money.
Right.
It was a very wise
Okay.
decision made in 1950.
Yeah.
Yeah, so debt services, obviously, this is gonna be our bond interest, our bond principal. You know, these numbers are gonna adjust year to year based on what we've borrowed and, what we need to, and the schedule, the payment schedules that we have to pay those back. So that said, you know, we feel we're in pretty good shape there, so. And with that, we get to our last page. I'll hand over to our library director.
Everybody, Anna,
Hi, Andy.
let's see. All right, so salaries, library staff is our biggest line item, of course. Last year we came in just a little bit under. We do have a pretty significant cost of living raise and an additional full-time position, so for 2026 it's up a little bit. Likewise with health insurance, costs are rising, so you see that there. We did come on under last year also. A lot of this stuff, does anyone have specific questions? Okay, the second largest item there is remodeling and repair. We did do our roof last year. It was a much needed project and it was reimbursed partially through Metropolitan Water Reclamation Districts. We now have a green roof on our library.
That's it.
And that's great. For next year, we're appropriating $275. We're hoping to get money from the state of Illinois for a Live and Learn construction grant to redo our HVAC controller, which is still the 1970 pneumatic control. It's very difficult to get parts for, and it breaks a lot. So there's areas of the library that are very cold and areas of the library that are very hot, and we just have sweaters and space heaters. So we're hoping to be able to do that. If we don't get that Live and Learn grant, we may use reserve funds to do that project. But if we don't get our money from the county, we probably will decide not to do that. Does anyone have any further questions about particular items? I could point out that we do spend computer services and equipment. We bought a whole bunch of new computers. We got a grant from the state of Illinois, an ISL technology grant, and bought lots of new computers for the public as well as the staff service areas. We include in that item a $25,000 expense for our online catalog, which we could call book materials books, because people can order books from any of the 100 libraries that are in our system through that cost, but we call it an online, a computer service because it's an online catalog. Yes,
Alderman Johnson.
With your older computers, what do you?
we tried to sell some of them and we did manage to sell some of them, and the ones that we couldn't sell.
Some down at Rexon.
Okay,
If it's possible, I would have to get with my.
Anna and I have discussed this, and I have discussed with our IT department, and we discussed more.
we can talk about it more. They're very old, but you have.
They're old, there's concerns about connecting into our network and stuff.
Wi-Fi, and I know we were talking about filters and things of that nature. Okay. Well, thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions for our librarian? Thank you, Anna.
Okay, so that concludes the draft. So moving forward, what we'd like to do out of here is, first off, myself, Mark are available, you know, Monday through Friday. and even on weekends. But no, we're available. If you want to have an individual discussion, if you have, as you're going through this, if you have concerns, if you'd like to talk to individual department heads, we try to keep things around the appropriation. We try to formalize things a little bit. I mean, obviously, I said we're relatively informal operation. You all talk to the department heads, they all talk to you. But if we want to talk about the appropriation, we ask that, let us know so we can, sit down and talk about it, keep all of our numbers straight. But yeah, what we'd like to do is use these next 3 weeks to get your input. We're gonna continue, we've got a little bit of hole we need to close here, but we're gonna continue looking at adjustments. And then my experience with this at any level of government is that there'll be just little things that pop up between here and there as we're thinking about it. Did we consider this? Did we consider, that we wanted to buy this, or we don't need this? So this would be little adjustments. But I think did a pretty decent job of getting close enough to the mark that we have a good working document for everybody to look at, work off of, give your notes and your thoughts. And then, headed towards what we hope to do is pass this, the final, in its final form on March 10th. So,
Any other questions for our administration? All right, as our
we're
only
available
agenda
moving
item,
forward.
like I said, it's not gonna be on the agenda for the next meeting in February. I wanna do on this. There's some questions that aldermen have asked that we need to get answers to. I know tonight for sure the golf course breakdown we'll send out to the aldermen and a few other items. Oh, the police report, I think that was included. Oh, did we send the police report to the?
included on the email.
Okay.
I don't know.
Jason, did you want to speak on the police report, chief, or do you want to wait till the next meeting? It's up to you.
It's attached in.
If I got it.
You guys got it? So we had a reduction in crime overall, but we're seeing this trend across the US. So, I mean, I like to say it's us, but it's overall. We had 200 extra arrests and sick time's down 40%. So we have no real issues. We're doing very well. Questions, comments, concerns?
Okay. If not, if you haven't looked at the report, it's very detailed. I know, all.
I would like to say I'd like to do details on.
Yeah, I see it.
Oh, okay.
It's on Facebook and it keeps on getting, more people are talking about it, so.
I got a call from another mayor asking us about that too today.
I had two chiefs of police come down and actually look at it, so.
Oh, wow.
It's turning very well. Well, is there any questions on the report? I think it's pretty well put together. We had a lot more tickets issued, arrests made, 4 more uses of force, which I think is interesting. With the extra 200, that means out of every 50 people went to jail, one person said, nah, not today. So I think that speaks a lot to how much money we did in training, and a lot of that comes back to Dennis, who's one of our instructors. So I do think we're trending in the right direction. And as we move forward, we're working together with not only internally, but also with other departments. So we're doing very well.
Thank you.
Treasurer.
And, also with these numbers that you're giving us, you are down, officers as well, right?
Yes.
Still
So we're supposed to be at 43, we're down 8.
down 8,
Yes,
and you're still making progress and.
we are.
you are-
But idealistically, we would, I don't want to go too much into it, but I would idealistically like to have somebody in every zone.
Yes,
At
that
all
would be great.
times, even when there's a sick day used or a personal time off day or something like that. So, sometimes we have to stretch our officers out a little further than we like. And, we don't want to do that, but it does happen. Yep, any other questions? I mean, I'm really, me and Dennis are very proud of it and, what came out and really excited about it, but, I think we're doing really well.
We're moving forward, that's the key.
But we are, the graphics say that. But
So if you haven't read the report, Chief, thank you. It's a very detailed report and, just at the next meeting, there might be some questions on follow-up because I know it's a pretty detailed report.
yes, sir.
Mayor, if I could just
Yep.
add something about the investments that we've made in the police department, and Dennis likes to talk about this a lot, but Commander Sepsi, what's the average age of our vehicles? And is this the lowest average age of our vehicles in the history since you've been on the department?
The average age of our patrol fleet is, just over 2 years old. And to put that in context, when the chief and I started 20 years ago, we were driving cars that were close to 20 years old.
I mean, I started.
Another shout out to Chief Haywood, He made a very good point to me the other day. What was something that happened for the very first time in the history of the Blue Island Fire Department with staffing?
We mean.
You had most staff on, you had, I think it was
Man shift.
12-man shift for the first time in the history of the city of Blue Island.
Alderman Fairwell.
I'll tell you.
We had 3 ambulances running that day, all in-house.
I've shared this with Chief Haywood. A good friend of mine, Jim Van Drunen, was police chief 40 or so years ago. Youngest police chief in the country at the time. And when he came in, our fire department was using shoelaces as tourniquets. So we learned something.
Well, if the budget gets a little tight this year.
No, overall,
I'll ask you to take your shoelace.
overall, both departments, we put a lot of investment in. Haywood's got some horror stories he brought up during our appropriations meetings of, a lot of work that was neglected for many, many years. The police department had bricks falling off its building when we came in here. So we put a lot of investment in the infrastructure, the manpower. We switched to ALS.
Yes.
Big, huge thing. Unless you don't need it, you really need it when you need it. And we have 3 full ambulances on call at all times, which we've never had before. And we could save someone's life now instead of just bringing them to the hospital. So huge improvements in manpower, infrastructure, both in the police and fire, and public works also got a huge influx in manpower and, infrastructure also, which we have to continue building on this year with the water infrastructure. If there's anything else, Treasurer?
Also, I just wanted to reiterate, thank you very much for doing the report. I know that we don't want to make these meetings longer than they have to be, but I do think it is very important that, not only our elected officials, but our citizens, are aware of what's going on in our town, and that we should shine a positive light. We should shine a light when we're doing good. When we have some positivity, we need to get it out there. And, I think that it's worth taking a few extra times for our committee of the whole, just to get a little discussion like that. So thank you for doing the report. I know I've been asking, when are we gonna start doing reports? So, this is great. Thank you.
Haywood, now we expect one from you at the next
Yeah,
meeting then.
that's right.
We'll just bring it for the next meeting, All right, anything else from the Alderman? If not, we can make a motion to adjourn. Motion by Alderman Fairwell, second by Alderman Ruthenberg, all in favor, say aye.